pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi everybody. Welcome to our weekly red, white, and blue message for the American people.
What do your chances look like for this with this panel that you got?
I think they were playing devil's advocate. I don't take to heart any questions that were asked to either side. I think our chances are excellent. But even if it doesn't come out in our favor at this phase, this is not the last stop. This is going to the Supremes. And what we're building now is a record. The government's arguments were really deficient, not just disingenuous, but frankly dishonest in a way. Because they come in front of this court and they say, well, we're getting all this information, all this telephone metadata, which basically invades your entire life, who you communicate with in terms of your social relationships, who you communicate in terms of medical needs or whatever, but we don't actually find out who you are. The problem with that is that just the inception of acquiring that information, they're not entitled to it without any showing of probable cause or reasonable suspicion that you're in contact with terrorists. That's the problem, and that's a constitutional violation under our Fourth Amendment and our First Amendment. But in addition to that, the government was dishonest because it didn't tell the court, in fact, what its own Inspector General has found, that in just a limited period of 6 months, there are between 2,000 and 3,000 violations of the privacy of specific individuals where their names were obtained, where it was violated. The employees of the NSA are even using this tyrannical device, this draconian measure to keep track of all American citizens, to spy on their girlfriends, boyfriends, wives, and husbands to see whether they're cheating on them. Now, if a lower level official can do that, just think what the higher level officials, like Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, who has already perjured himself in front of Congress and said this program didn't exist, or John Brennan, head of the CIA, or head of the National Security Agency. Just think what they do with this data. So I said to this court, Your Honor, you're the last protection of the American people. You stand between us and a tyrannical government. And as Chief Justice Roberts pointed out in a recent decision, United States versus Riley, is that this is exactly the reason why we fought the revolution beginning in 1776. Warrantless searches of people's homes. And this is even more invasive than going into your home. So I am confident that either this court or in the end the Supreme Court will rule in our favor, because if this situation continues, we are potentially headed into another revolution.
This court seemed to attach some weight to Mr. Byron's arguments that you may not have the standing to even present this. You personally are not injured by this, where he asked you, actually Judge Sentel asked you to cite in the record, where are you harmed by this? What's your answer to that?
The very fact that they obtain our information means that we're harmed. Judge Leon found that, and several other courts that have looked at similar situations have found that as well. But I also pointed out to the judges that in the record are specific affidavits from me. I'm a public advocate. I am the founder of Judicial Watch and Freedom Watch. I'm a former Justice Department prosecutor. I'm a former U.S. Senate candidate. I challenge governments. I challenge presidents. That I have seen things with my cell phone that have been irregular. Text messages to my staff that I had never sent. And Mr. Strange and Mrs. Strange have found with their computer that they actually have had photographs taken of them while they're using that computer. And also strange telephone messages from Afghanistan where their son, a hero, an NSA cryptologist assigned to SEAL Team 6, died in a fatal helicopter crash 3 months after bin Laden was killed. special ops on that mission called Extortion 17, some of them actually participated in killing bin Laden. So yes, we have particularized information on the record, but I also pointed out to the judges the arrogance of the government to come in and to tell the American people that we hold all the cards. We don't have to tell you what we're doing, and for that reason, the plaintiffs in this case should lose. What kind of arrogant, tyrannical approach to government would have a government lawyer come in there and say those kinds of things? This tells the American people that our government doesn't represent them, that they can do whatever they want, and that we don't need to find out because, as Alexander Hamilton said, the people are a great beast. The ruling nobility, the monarchy, should govern. And that's not what this country's about. It's not why we fought the revolution in 1776. And it's not why, unless this court rules in our favor along with the Supreme Court, we may have to fight another one.
The invasion of our home, going into our computers, taking my wife's picture. We don't have a camera on our computer while we're sitting there. Take information out. It's all documented by one of the best computer analysts in the world. Who we have affidavit with Larry as a witness. It says 8numbers.gov, 12numbers.cia. In my computer, because I'm asking questions, what happened to my son? That's what's next. They're going to be looking through your television. It's a tape recorder on my phone. I can't talk to my wife without somebody
remember
listening.
who the strangest son was. He was an NSA cryptologist. He was killed in a tragic helicopter crash by the Taliban. There's reason to believe that the U.S. government was covering up the circumstances of that crash, either because they were grossly negligent in sending Mr. Strange's son into battle, or perhaps national security was compromised and the coordinates of that mission were given over to the Taliban by someone who was disloyal to this country. The government's covering it up. And he's been very critical of the NSA. So they have every reason to inspect his computers, to get into his cell phones, to try to invade the attorney-client communication that I have with my clients. And that's something that I pointed out to the court as well. I'm just not an ordinary plaintiff. And Mr. Strange and Mrs. Strange are not ordinary plaintiffs as well. Is that we have the right to communicate under the most sacrosanct privilege in our legal system, our attorney-client privilege. And the government is invading that attorney-client privilege. And if an ordinary citizen did that, they'd wind up in prison. Well, this is not a criminal case, but this government, many of the individuals involved who are doing these things, including Director of National Security, Clapper, should frankly be in prison. I'm not the only one to say that. Senator Rand Paul has said the same thing.
How soon do you expect a decision from the appeals court?
Probably in 1 to 2 months. And there's another case in the 2nd District of New York, which may actually come out with a decision before. It's likely that both decisions will be taken up on appeal by the U.S. Supreme Court. That's where we're headed, whether we win or lose. The Supreme Court's going to be the final shot to make this decision. Last stop shopping, in effect, to protect the rights of the American people.
Many years.
Let me get.
That's sometimes thanks to the offer. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be in touch and good luck. And I told Ashley if this thing goes to the Supreme Court, I'm sure to apply for admission so you can sort of motion around at the very beginning.
Nice to meet you too.
Good luck.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Take care.
The City Tavern, one matter. But there's a really nice place, visitor center. Yeah, it's all glass overlooking great backdrop.
Go and build my basketball court if you want to get embarrassed.
If I want to get embarrassed,